Good morning and welcome to this week's episode. I think we're on number 43. Well, it's Monday the 2nd of May. And yes, welcome. I hope everybody's had a lovely weekend. Well, a lovely week really, because the weather here has been quite nice. And we've had a bank holiday weekend. So I was actually working on Saturday. But we do have a May Day festival in our little town. Now, I know a lot of people, I'm hearing sort of online blogs and things that I've read, that they don't actually have one anymore, but we do. It's been going on for quite a while, and we also have a lovely tradition which goes back, I think, around about 300 years. So what I thought I would do is sort of tell you about that. Now, Saturday was an absolutely beautiful day. The weather couldn't have been better. So obviously my shop, we're in a big building and we're in the town centre, and every year when it's the May Day festival we have lots of stalls around the outside of the square, and there's usually children performing from several schools. There's probably the dance school there as well. And this year we'd got a couple of comedians, and they were stood on two boxes, so even when I was stood outside my shop I could see what was happening, and there was somebody singing, and it was really nice. You never ever see our little town centre as full as you do when it's like May Day festival or the Christmas fairs. That is when everybody comes together to support the town, and it's really nice. Well, we do have, like I say, a long-standing tradition, and I've had to write it all down so I don't forget what I'm saying. So you'll have to excuse me if I'm not looking at you, but I'm going to be reading off my notes. Well, our local vicar, he gets dressed up in historical costume and reads out the will of a local resident called Thomas Tuke before ascending the church tower. A basket of bread is winched up outside while dancing takes place down below, and as the clock strikes noon, a barrage of buns descends from on high onto the assembled crowd below. Now, everybody loves going to that, I tell you. I mean, my kids have all been to it. The grandparents usually used to take them. That used to be their thing. And they still love it today. Even my son and daughter-in-law went up with the grandchildren, and one of them, the eldest granddaughter, she caught a bread roll, and she was quite pleased with herself that she'd caught one. So yeah, she was munching away on that. And I think the bread is actually donated by Tesco, or it used to be donated by Tesco, so I'm presuming it still is. So yeah, they all had a fun time. So the origins of this event lie in the early 19th century, and we're going back sort of to 1820 here. That's when Thomas Tuke died. So in his will, he sort of bequest, I don't know, money to pay for this bread. And on St Thomas's Day in December, it was actually Christmas Day, I think, and that's when they used to throw bread from the tower for the needy, which, is really nice. What else was there? But it was stopped due to a riot by desperate people trying to claim their share. So the money went to pay for a nurse for the benefit of the village instead, which was nice. So in 1972, Wath Morris, I think this is probably the Morris men, brought it back as part of the May Day festival tradition. And like I say, we've had it ever since again. And it's a long weekend of festival, because we have a folk festival in Wath as well. So that's really nice. So that does actually bring more people in. But I thought this was a nice little story just to see what we do on bank holiday, which is really nice, because they put a little maypole up in the town centre for the children to do the maypole dance, and we've got the Morris men, and there's even a group of children that do the Morris dance as well, which is really nice to see. So yes, it's been a lovely weekend. So I hope you enjoyed that little bit of information on our bread throwing from the church roof. So yeah, I wonder how many other places have something like that going on. If you have anything like that happening in your town or your village, let me know below, because it'd be nice to hear what other traditions are out there. Well, this week I've been using my air fryer just a little bit. I must admit I haven't done as much cooking and that this week as I'd hoped to. I don't know what I've been doing this week really, but I did do a pork joint, so I put that in this week. I don't think I shared that with you last week. That took, what did it take? I think it took about 90 minutes, was it? Something like that. I don't know. It went in three times anyhow in the air fryer. It turned out really well, and it as you'll see, it's only a small joint, but it did 3 of us, which was great. And I made a sweet and sour pork dinner with rice, and that was really nice. And we had that yesterday. Oh, excuse me, I've got an itchy nose this morning. Yeah, so I'd got a jar of sweet and sour sauce, which I've got from Aldi, and I've got a pepper to use up and an onion to use up. So I put that in, and it was very tasty, very nice. So it was worthwhile having that little pork joint. I made a quiche as well. I know when you'll see the picture of it, it looks a bit brown. It wasn't burnt or anything like that. The bit of pastry did catch, because I forgot to set my timer, didn't I? I'd got that much going off in my head what I was supposed to be doing. I forgot to set the timer for the oven. But I made it slightly different to how I normally make my quiche. Now, normally I will cook up bacon, onions, tomatoes, and it's seasoned and everything. But this time I didn't have any tomatoes, did I? I'd used them all up. So what I did was I used tomato puree as on the base, and then I'd got 5 eggs in. I'd got a very small amount of cream that was left over, so we were having a leftover quiche really, and I'd got some mascarpone left over from the pasta from last week's recipe for the pasta that I made, and I used that, and that was that. And I used that nice, was it Parmesan cheese, because I've got some of that left over. Now, as I said before, Adele can't eat that cheese, and she doesn't eat quiche anyhow, so it was okay. So there'll be a bit of a picture of that in as well. And I had some leftover cheese, Parmesan cheese, and some leftover pastry. So I thought, well, I know cheese straws are made with rough puff, but I thought, I'm just going to sprinkle some cheese on the leftovers. So I had not cheese straws, but cheese scraps, cheese pastry scraps. That's what I did, and they don't look very sort of fancy or anything, but like I said, it was just leftover pastry. I got leftover cheese. I thought the oven's on, I might as well use it, and they didn't actually last long. But between myself and Kevin and Jet, they went pretty quickly, but they were tasty. That's probably about all I've done in the cooking department this week. So yeah. and I thought I'd talk about my quilt now. If you followed me and you watched last week's episode, you'll know that I've been doing a Highland cow quilt. Well, oops, here it is. It is all finished. The binding is on. The binding is the same colour as the back, and it's all finished, and I've thoroughly enjoyed making this. It's really good to have a nice quick project to do. And the fabric came from Scotland when we were on our holiday last year, and it was a layer cake from one of the little shops that we went to, and I'm so glad I bought it. So yes, so what I'm going to do now is, the weather's not it's not sunny out there today, it is a bit dull, so I'm going to go and hang this on the washing line to see if I can get some photographs so you can see it in all its glory. And I hope the video of the quilt has turned out okay. It's the best I could do. My washing line seems to have gone a little bit saggy, and Adele's not here to hold it up, so I've had to make do. It does need a bit of a press because it's been folded up for a few days out in my sewing room, but no, I'm really pleased with it, and like I said before, it fits on the bed lovely. So that is going to go and be packed away now until we get our bedroom done, which is not going to happen for a while, as I'm in the middle of saving up for a new bedroom window at the moment, but I think that might take a little bit longer than I expected, the way things are going at the minute, but never mind, we'll get there. I think what I'm going to do now is show you a bit of the garden, because with it being bank holiday weekend, no, I didn't get any crafting done. Did a little bit of crochet, but that was about it. And I will show you what we've been doing in the garden. Now, for the last couple of weeks, I've been buying a few plants off our local market and popping them in when I can. And then when we went out at the weekend, we went to B&Q because I was looking for something, which I'll get to in a minute. And I found some plants. There were some on sale. There were some sweet peas on sale. A tray of sweet peas for £1, so I thought I'll have them. So I got some canes to go with them as well. And what else did I get? I got 2 pots of peas, which I think I've got 8 plants in each pot. So they're for Adele, so they've got to be planted. And then I got 2 pots of beans, purple beans. Now, we have lost one already. But I've had to, well, the problem in our garden has been the blackbirds. Now, we haven't had any problem in the garden with birds for many, many years, because having cats, the birds don't really come into our garden that much. But we must have got a pair of nesting blackbirds close by, because you can hear them, and they've been in the beds, haven't they? Now, the beds aren't really full of anything at the minute, so apart from me having Charlie and Elsa getting in the bed, and Charlie gets a little bit overexcited and flicks stuff everywhere, I've now got blackbirds digging through the mulch and into the soil to find the worms. Now, we have got quite a lot of worms in our garden at the minute, which is really good, but one of them has been in my terracotta pot where I've got my David's rose. Now, I thought this was the cats, because the mulch was off, all shoved up to one side, and they were like making a tunnel. And I'm thinking, why are the cats doing this all of a sudden? But it turns out it's not the cats, it's these 2 blackbirds. It's a mum and dad blackbird. And it's like, oh, goodness me. So, of course, they've been in the tomato bed, so the soil's all been churned over. the roots of one of the tomato plants were bare the other day, and I thought, I've got these new plants to go in and they're not very big. And I was saying to Kevin, I need something to protect them, but not only that, I needed something for the tomato plants to, I don't know, like a tomato cage. I've seen them online, and I think it's like 3 sticks with like 3 hoops on. Now, I've not actually seen these in the shops, because whenever we've gone looking before, they've always all sold out. Now, I did look on Amazon, and yes, I'd got some, and I thought, well, is it worth it? I thought, I don't know whether to or not, because I like to actually see things like that so I can see if it will work and do what I want. So I didn't actually purchase them. So as we were going to B&Q anyhow, I said to Kevin, you go off and look for what you want to, while I go and have a look at the plants and the other things. Anyhow, like I said, I bought some plants, and I was looking for this tomato cages, anything that might help, because I didn't know how I could protect the plants from the birds. Anyhow, we were looking around and there was nothing in B&Q, so we went into Wilko's and there was nothing there. And then Kevin had an idea. In Wilko's they sell a roll of, it's a plastic mesh. So he says, well, what about something like this to go around the tomato plants so we can cut it down? And I said, oh, that sounds like a good idea. And then obviously it's like a cylinder we're making, so there's a hole at the top. So I said to him, well, if they get in through that hole, I can just get some, the birds that is, I can just get some pea mesh and just attach it on. So we bought this roll. Now, I can't remember how tall the roll was. We'll say 4 foot. So when he gets it home, halfway across the mesh, there's like 2 pieces very close together. So that was his cutting line. So we ended up getting 10 pieces of mesh out of this roll. So we've got 10 cylinders. So he sat there on Saturday afternoon making these cylinders up. And with it being plastic mesh, they just went together quite well. And the granddaughters came round, so they were snipping all the cable ties and that off for him. But they actually work. So we've put them over the top of the tomato plants, and I've got some beans to go in, and of course they're only tiny. So there were 4 pieces of mesh that were probably about that wide. So I joined 2 together to make a small cylinder to go over the 2. They've worked brilliantly. They are protected from the birds, which is the main thing. Then I'm thinking, well, what happens if it's windy? They're just going to blow over or blow away. Or if the cats decide to weave their way around, they might knock them over. So I thought, well, what can we do? I said, well, what we need is something like tent pegs. So luckily, we've got a caravan sat out there, and we've got some more tent pegs in there. So Kevin sorted all them out for me, and all the old ones that he'd got, that the points had broken off, got his grinder out and ground some points on. So I've got plenty of tent pegs now. So I've only done a few of them because it was raining yesterday and I didn't get a chance to do any more. But it's holding these cylinders in place. So this mesh has worked. And I've got an old pop bottle that I've got. So I cut that in half, cut the top off so it's open on both ends. So that is now over the top of the 2 of the new bean plants. So my plants are protected. I did buy some marigolds, which I had intended on putting all in with the tomato plants, but when the cylinders went over the tomato plants, there's not a lot of room. So I just put a few across the front of the bed, and then the rest of the marigolds have gone in a tub. So that's been our weekend. So by the time I'd finished in the garden Saturday, I was shattered. Oh dear me, we were outside hours because Kevin cut the grass and done things like that. So the next little clip that you're going to see is what the garden looks like now with all the new plants in. And I think there's a bit of a change in the garden, definitely, since you last saw it. We did have a bit of frost last week, towards the end of the week, and there was a little bit of frost damage on one of the plants in the first bed, I think, with the purple heads. I noticed that the other day, and I think one or two of the leaves on the tomato plants have gone a little bit funny as well, and I think that was just due to frost. But everything's looking okay, but I'm sure you'll have noticed in the first bed the mulch is not sort of covering the bed nicely. That's where either where Charlie's been in this morning or we've had the birds in again. But yes, I think the cats like the bed because when the sun's out with that mulch on, it's quite nice and cosy for them to sleep on, so they do like it. But unfortunately, they're not going to be able to do it for much longer because all the plants are starting to come through now, especially in that first bed. The perennials are starting to come through, which is nice. So I'm actually going to be able to see shortly how much space I've got left, so I can put some like beans and things in. Now, I've said before, I've got no room in the garden for courgettes, but I think they're going to go out in the front garden. Well, that's another story, the front garden. What day were we on now? Sunday. Yes, Sunday. Kevin had been cutting the grass, that was it. He did the front garden, and we have got piles and piles of bluebells, and the soil has dropped. The front garden hasn't really had anything done to it for many years, and I said, it's time. It had a bit of a makeover on the cheap, really. I don't want to be spending out. I can't afford to spend loads of money on new plants and that for that garden. But what I decided to do, as the back wall's got one bush in the centre of it, and I've got no idea what this bush is called, but it has got this beautiful flower that comes on, and we have had that bush for many years. I think I rescued it for 50p from home base or somewhere, and it's done really well. He's took out a few things over the years that we don't want. So what I thought of doing, I says to him, I don't expect you to go out there and dig all these bulbs up and that all the way around. I said, just do it a bit at a time. So he's starting on up against the wall in the front garden. So he's going to sieve it all and get rid of the bulbs and that we don't want. And what I want to do is I've got 2 hydrangea plants still in pots in the back garden, which I bought and had one as a gift purposely to go in the front garden because I love hydrangeas and they are quite big, so they will be perfect out there. And I've got a nice fuchsia bush out in my garden as well, which that was here when we moved in, and we've been in this house over 30 years, so that's doing well. And there's a couple of other bushes, and my peony's doing well. I think I'm going to get 6 flowers this year. It never grows very big, and I usually only get a few heads. Now the buds are there and they are starting to come out because I think they're maybe just a tad late this year because we're just in May, and sometimes they are open. It probably depends on the weather, but they never last long. I've got no idea what variety it is, but yeah, I don't get many on there. But it looks really healthy. It's only small, but it looks really healthy. It doesn't seem to grow. When you see people's videos, their peony bushes seem quite big. So I have no idea what variety mine is, but I've only got 6 blooms this year. But and it always rains when they've bloomed. I might get a couple of days and I think, oh, aren't they beautiful? And then the rain comes and then I've lost them, which is such a shame. But yeah, so they're coming on. So eventually I will probably share what's been happening in the front garden. But no, it seems he's just digging. It looks a bit of a mess out there. But yeah, what I thought was I would have lavender plants out there and heathers and things like that. Just keep it simple. And in front of the window I'm going to put the courgette plants out there. Then they've got full sun and I hope they'll be safe and nobody pinches them. Oh dear, never mind. We'll get something sorted. And then maybe next year I might actually be able to put courgettes in the back garden, but we'll see. And I thought I'd just give you a quick update on the seeds I started off in the kitchen. Now the courgettes, they have done really, really well. They sort of outgrew the little propagator. So I thought, right, get them potted up. So I did that. 3 of them I think I did to start with, because there was 3 that were in front of everyone else. Like, so I potted them up. Then I potted another 3 up, I think that was right. And I came down one morning and thought, they don't look very healthy, them. Have I not watered them? You know, things like that. I come down next day, one of the plants is dead. One plant has no leaves on. One plant is jumped. So we all know who has killed my plants. Salem, bramble. They've been up on the worktop sink, where the sink is, to get onto the windowsill, and they've been eating the courgette plants. So I have got to start again. So yesterday when I had a look in the propagator, the beans were nearly touching the top of the little propagator. So I thought, right, chuck the courgettes out, because they've died, and yeah, put the beans in. So up to now nobody's chomped them, but it just proves to me that I can't have any plants on the windowsill now, really. So considering I said I wasn't going to spend any money this month, I've ordered one of those little cheap plastic greenhouses that's 4 tier, similar to the one I had 2 years ago that, well, it got broken, didn't it, because the winds blew it over that first summer and it just wrecked it. We had to chuck it out. So I bought one of them, and I've got one that's just for tomato plants, because the tomato plants that are in the propagator are doing really well and they've all sprouted. So I'm really pleased. I'm going to be inundated with tomato plants this year. So I decided I needed to have somewhere to put them, and not on my kitchen windowsill. So Kevin is going to have to sort out the bottom of the garden, because he's put the hose pipe down there, the watering cans down there, lots of bits that shouldn't be down there. So he needs to sort that out. So when they come, they can be built up and they can be put in there. And I think what I'm going to have to do is maybe get a strap to go around the top part, just to keep them up against the trellis so they don't fall over, because I don't want these to get ruined. This is the only place I can have to put my seeds in. And then I think what I will do next weekend is start some more seeds off, because I've got plenty of soil, plenty of compost. The compost has been doing really well this year, and so I can get some more going. So I'm hoping to have a sort of continuous supply of new plants to go in the garden then. That's the plan, but we'll see how that turns out, won't we? So I will share that little journey with you throughout the summer and everything, and just see what happens. But as you'll have seen from the little video of the garden tour, the rhubarb is doing well. So that has got to be picked, and I've got to do something with it. And I have got to do something with it over the next week. So that's going to be another job. But I will put a little video in next of the seedlings in the kitchen, so you can see what they're like. But like I say, I think all the courgettes got damaged, so they've gone. But having said that, there might be 1 or 2 there. I don't know, I can't tell them apart now. But the beans are looking okay. thought I'd share with you the bit of crochet that I've been doing. It's not a great deal, but I have done some. I've got a few squares that I've made up. So we've got like a peachy one there, the sort of pinky one, a dusky pink. Oops, I've dropped one. Dusky pink and pale blue, a yellow. Just bear with me while I... Okay, and this is a nice blue. Now I have run out of white. I think I need 125 more grams to actually finish off all my squares and join them together. But I think what I might do is get by 200 grams and then I've got enough white for some other things then. So this is as far as I've got. I started putting the squares together. So it's coming on really nice. I'm really enjoying this. And it's quite nice to actually stitch them together as well. I've got some strands across there. So yeah, as we're coming to the bottom, you can see I'm one short, so 25 grams, that's as far as I got with 25 grams, but I did have a few pieces left over for stitching up, and I don't know, I've got a bit there to continue sewing. But yeah, so I think this is going to look really nice when it's done. So I think what I'm going to try and do is probably not focus too much on the crochet blanket from now on. I'm just going to try and I think I might take some of the yarn to work and do a square, at least a square a day, and then put them into piles, into colour piles, get my white, and then just continue doing a little bit. So you might not see this again for a week or so. Like I said, I need to get some white sorted out, but I also want to get on with some cross stitch now. I've got a couple of Jubilee cross stitches that I could do with doing, so they're ready to go on my tier tray. So I need to concentrate on them for a little bit. So I think that's what I'm going to be doing over next week. Cross stitch, and I've got some sewing, and I've got some, I'm trying to work towards a shop update, so I need to do that, and I've got a couple of orders to do, and I've had a bit of lost post, so I've got to replace a pouch that's gone missing, so that's not good. So I've got to do things like that over the week, so that's going to keep me busy. And I think I'm going to round this episode off now because I am late for lunch and I'm getting very hungry and I've got a little bit of housework to do, and I want to try and sort of prepare things for tea tonight so I can get back out here and do a little bit of sewing. So I'd like to say thank you for joining me this week, and thank you for taking time out of your day to share with me, and I hope everybody has a lovely week and you get some crafting done, and I will see you all again next week. So bye for now.